If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell icon. It just helps me with producing content, and then you get that content as fast as it comes out. Sometimes if a video gets sunken into history a little bit, nobody ever finds out about it, and they can be really quality reviews, good things that you're not seeing on other channels. I try to find products that aren't necessarily hugely reviewed or super popular. I kind of have my own vein of things that I like. So the reason this rifle is out in front of me today is because we're going to talk about finally the Caldwell Fieldpod Deadshot, or Deadshot Fieldpod, however you want to say it. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Over the last year of my channel, I think it's only been on for about a year so far, you've probably seen a lot of different shooting rests and positions that I like to go from. I'm not just a bench rest shooter. I do like to use the bench rest sometimes. There are certain rifles that I think it's fun to do with, namely like my 22. That's kind of just a bench gun right now. But everything else, I like to shoot from the prone. I like to try to shoot from slings and different positions. And the Caldwell, you've probably seen that in some of my other footage of other videos. That's another product that I had bought, and I'll tell you the truth. Right off the bat, the first rest that I had ever bought was not this one, but it looked like this, and it was from Caldwell. And it was made out of plastic, and I broke it almost right away. And I shouldn't even say I broke it. It broke. It was a piece of crap. I had a bad experience with Caldwell, and so I didn't buy any other rests like that. This, by the way, is the Sportsman's Guide rest. Adjustable in the rear, adjustable in the middle, adjustable in the front. Fantastic deal. This is the Guide Gear version, 13 bucks, and I use this all the time when I do want to shoot like pellet gun at my house or something like that. If I want to have precision shots from 150 or greater yards, this is a fantastic rest that I use for that. It's metal in the rear, sandbag front. But mini review for that. This is a great one. But I didn't buy anything from Caldwell for a while. I tried out a bipod eventually from Caldwell. It wasn't, it looks like the Harris, but it's not the Harris, and I didn't like it. It didn't fit well on my guns, and the torquing screw just seemed like not quality, at least enough for my operations, and it actually ended up working better on a friend's gun, so I gave it to him, and he tried it out. And eventually I went to, UTG. This is the 360 UTG bipod. I'll tell you what I think of this later, but as a hint, I have 3 of them, so probably give you an idea of what I'm going to say about that UTG bipod, which I'm super surprised that I had something great to say about UTG, but it is what it is. So anyways, rifles like this, rifles like this, I want to spend a lot of my time shooting. I do some pistoling and things like that. That's probably most of my practical training, but I do enjoy shooting from rifles. Sorry about that. So I do enjoy shooting these kind of rifles quite a bit. And as far as coyote hunting and hobby shooting and a little bit of defensive carbine work, some of these things come together. I do like shooting from the bipods quite a bit off the prone. I get the best results from that after learning the rifle a little bit. That's always kind of a learning curve, shooting off bipods. But here's the problem. If I go coyote hunting or I'm shooting somewhere that is kind of an untraditional position, sometimes the bipod isn't the best method. Sometimes shooting off my backpack doesn't work the best. It's not high enough. And I know there are really tall bipods you can get, and I hate those. I've tried them, I've made them myself. But I wanted a system that could transfer between 2 rifles like this relatively quickly. And that's when I saw this. This is the Caldwell Deadshot Fieldpod. It's got kind of a long name. Caldwell Deadshot Fieldpod. And this was the item. I saw this and I thought, man, I probably could do a lot with that. I wonder how steady it is. So I've been trying it out for the last year. So I'm going to get on the ground with it and show you what I think of it. In fact, I'm going to tell you why I like it and why you shouldn't buy it. All right, so maybe I'll start by just showing you the 3 positions that are kind of presets. You can go in between stages. There's adjustability for in between, and as also with length of the rifle, this can be extended out quite a bit, and this whole bracket that has the notches on it can be extended and then pushed back and forth for balancing, center of gravity, all those kind of things. So you can have different kinds of rifles, maybe a front heavy rifle or a rear heavy rifle. You can adjust for that, and so it stays centered in the gravity for the most part. And like I said, also it has cant, which I have tightened this down, really tight. So it has cant up and down. It does not have side to side, which is fine because your rifle can do that, but it also has swivel. And so the rifle essentially does all the things you would need it to do, or the rest rather, would do all the things you need it to do to track a target, and then to give you some elevation up and down while keeping that center of gravity as best as you can. When I shoot it, I always recommend that the triangle of legs, one leg is forward, and then you have two legs that are against you. That way when the rifle recoils, it's not going against the one leg and going off to a side one way or the other. It goes straight back each time. That's the best recommendation I can get for you. But you can see here with my rifle, if I'm shooting down a big ravine or something like that, I can get up into my optic pretty well at this height. This is what I usually shoot it at, is right about here. And it's pretty good. I always try to stabilize myself, and I'll show you the lower and higher position as well in a second. I usually try to stabilize myself because this doesn't do everything for you. You know, as soon as you touch that rifle, you're adding another component to the stability. In fact, where I'm at right now, I would have to bring it down a little bit. Right about there is perfect for me. And so with this hand over here, you can't exactly see it. I would rest kind of bone and muscle components like this to get into the rifle perfectly. Make sure she's level. Just barely resting on it, not putting a huge pressure on the rifle. And in fact, let's throw one in. And that's a snap count. That's kind of how it looks for my bolt gun setup. Sometimes I set it up a little different. I'll put the bipod legs out and then kind of brace into it a little more. It depends if I'm shooting downhill or straight across. And this is fantastic for shooting downhill. It really does well because you can change that center of gravity and the height of each individual leg. It's a very convenient use for that kind of thing. Let's show you the lower version. All right, so this is as low as it can possibly go right here. It does not go lower than this at all. One of the problems I have with the bipod, I don't actually have many myself. It runs particularly well. It's just the adjustment for the length of some bolt guns. I like it to be exactly perfect in the notch in the rear, exactly perfect braced against the bipod or the sling swivel or whatever you're going to use. So it's always just a little finicky with things of that nature. But as you can see here on the lowest setting, if you were not going to use structure or you're going to use structure to support it, this works pretty well. Again, if you're shooting down. If you're shooting up, of course, you wouldn't use it on the lowest setting. And if you're shooting straight across, this is not ideal. You have to get down really low. I mean, this is practically like probably 18 inches off the ground, if that, to get up here. Probably 16 inches. And so you can take some pretty nice shots though from this position right here. When I shoot down really low like this, I shoot unsupported most of the time, just because I found that if I get up here, I have too much wobble going on for myself. I'm not really flexible. And so I can get down on the rifle, and that's it. That's low. I'll show you high. All right, so here's the highest configuration. And again, this one does not get used very often for me. At best, this is a kneeling position downhill. So if you were to need to deploy this thing really quick, and it can deploy actually fairly fast. That's one thing that people get wrong about this tripod, is it can deploy fairly fast. If I'm going downhill, this is a fairly steady stance right here, and I think with every position I've showed you so far, you should be able to accomplish your 1 MOA at least groups. If you're a 1 MOA shooter on a normal day on a bench, you should still be able to get that within reason. Not maxing out your cartridge or anything like that, but within reason. A couple hundred yards, a few hundred yards, you should still be able to knock those targets from this rest. This is a over 12-pound rifle right now. Just a hair over 12 pounds. And as it is right now, it's so steady, absolutely steady. When you add components on your rifle, this little notch in the rear, you're going to have to get a little bit creative. Like this has a little extra width on the side, so it doesn't fit perfectly in there. So I usually end up kind of cramming it down there, moving it a little bit sideways, and then I use a level anyway, so I'm fine. But just to make sure that it's not kittywampus, you know, sitting sideways or something like that. I can still access everything I need to on the bolt gun. I can still get up my towers. My sight path is really good, and kneeling isn't such a bad position as long as you're on the ground and you're not on tar or something like that. It's not perfect on tar, kind of hurts. But from here, yeah, pretty good position, pretty usable. The most often that I would use it in the fully extended mode, if I'm not kneeling, shooting downhill, trying that out, I'd probably use it on a bench that's already set up but is kind of low, and I want to try shooting standing up. That'll get it tall enough even for me. I can lean over into it, and that's pretty stable. That's probably the least stable actually for me out of all the positions. Being grounded is the best so far. So that's the standing position, the least used for me. Now let's talk about putting it in something that's a little more modular, something like the AR. All right, so with the AR, and any modular rifle that has a magazine, a detachable box magazine of some sort, you're going to have to index that and get to it. And with this setup right here, I can definitely get on the stock without interference. I can access my handguard without interference. I should mention that these notches that hold your rifle in the forearm and the rear, they're adjustable for height. And so you can raise them, lower them, by several inches, probably 5 or 6 inches of height in both directions. A little less in the rear than in the front for obvious reasons, but they're both adjustable, and you can get in there and get it just right. Again, the length is adjustable. I could make this longer if I wanted to. That would ease up some of the tension that I have about working around this magazine well. But as it is now, it works. I just need to push the rifle forward a little bit if I'm going to take one out. And again, you could just lift the rifle out if that's such a big deal to you. But most people want to be able to slap in a magazine while the rifle is mostly in the rest. So there you go. The biggest deal with shooting ARs out of this thing is it does have to be a little bit more preset to the particular rifle you're shooting. I'm shooting a 20-inch right now. It's front heavy. I have a lot of gear out here, and it's very long in this direction. Whereas the bolt gun that you saw earlier, that has a little more weight towards the rear, and that bull barrel with the forearm, it's kind of a traditional design, and so it sits better in the rest. This is just a little tipsy, and so I find that when I'm shooting it, it comes with a sling for the rest. I use that sling sometimes, and I'll run my foot through it, I'll run my leg through it, I'll weigh it down with a backpack, and that will keep it from wanting to move at all. And I think that's a pretty good idea. It's a safe idea, especially if you intend on getting up and walking around with your rifle in the rest, because this rest does not weigh a whole lot. It's only a few pounds. So I can get into the rifle, safety check, use my level. I don't usually shoot with glasses, by the way. Inducing parallax. Take those shots. The recoil is a little bit funny with an AR in these things. You just really need to make sure that it's straight back and that you don't have one of the legs sitting sideways or anything. Again, one leg in the front, 2 legs in the back facing exactly against you, perpendicular. That's going to give you the best recoil mitigation that you can get out of this thing. But it certainly works, and I'm still able to accomplish my 1-inch groups out of it. It takes more work than shooting off the prone, but it gets me up higher than any sticks that I'm going to carry or any bipod that I'm going to carry into the woods. And very, very stable platform overall with the AR. So I had intended on filming all this outside today, but then a big storm rolled through, and I didn't think sitting on top of a big hill or ravine while there was lightning was a great idea. So anyways, here is the tripod. This is what it pretty much gets down to for me if I'm going to fix it to a backpack or just carry it as you see it here. And it's not super comfortable to carry unless you find the right kind of way to set it. I usually like attaching it to a pack or a backpack better. But if you wanted to carry your rifle on one shoulder and then this on the other, you're good to go for hunting. And it's lightweight. It's not heavy. It's really not heavy. It's probably 5 pounds at the most, maybe 4 pounds. The structure of it is strong. It's not going to break on me. I'm fairly confident. I'm also not an idiot with my gear. But as you can see, try to show you. So as it is now, all I need to do is push it down, open those legs like that, and then I give mine a twist around like this, because that's the rear. And so she's ready to shoot just like that. And as long as I know the height, then we're good. The angle, I can shoot from this position anywhere. And if I know I'm going through tall grass, I will extend out the legs probably about halfway here. Something like that. All right, let's talk about the negatives of this thing, the things that I really just didn't care for, and why I don't think you should buy this. Now, first of all, I bought this thing for I want to say it was $61. I got it on sale. It was a fantastic sale. I was very happy to get it for that because it retails for over $100, I believe. And there are two versions. There's this one and there's the Magnum, the Caldwell Deadshot Magnum. And the Magnum does not have legs that have a connecting piece in the middle. The legs are free floating. You can move them kind of however you want to within those joints. I don't own that one. That one costs quite a bit more actually, but the prices are becoming more and more comparable now that technology has been out for a long time and people have seen them. Here's the things that didn't work well for me. Now the legs are adjustable, which is fantastic. Telescoping legs are good, but there's no notching, there's no numbers, there's no idea about where you're at. And so you kind of just have to guess from leg to leg. And the fact that it connects the legs with this centerpiece, it's kind of inconvenient, especially if you want to hang weight from it and keep it steady, or just trying to get the legs to be in the same place so that it's not sitting a little to the side. It's not a huge deal if you're taking a quick snapshot, you know, on an animal or something like that, and you're just trying to get steady. But if you're trying to do some precision shooting out of this thing, that's one more thing to work around. Next thing is the rear notch. The rear notch is a little too tight. I would have preferred for it to be a little bit more like this actually, and for the front to be like sandbag material or something like that, but that would add weight and probably cost. This is pretty rigid, it can get wet, it's pretty much weatherproof as it is, so I can understand why they did it, but the rear notch is a little too tight for some rifles is what I'm finding. It's kind of a bare bones deal in the back. There's a little bit of compression that can happen in here with this material, but I didn't prefer that. The sling is kind of a piece of crap. It regularly kind of will slip off with the hook. It's made out of plastic on the hook piece here. It's where it connects in the rear. If you're gonna attach something or sell something, it should probably just not be a piece of crap. The front is a loop, whatever. The lockdowns on here, the hardware, it does work. It does the trick for me, but it's kind of cheesy stuff. Like I could see a lot of people seeing this and then thinking that they're just gonna strip it out because the hardware looks cheesy. And the plastic knobs frequently over tighten, and I don't know. We'll see about durability, you know, 3 or 4 years down the road for myself. But again, I didn't recommend that you buy it, and here's some of my thinking why you shouldn't buy that. In the next few months, you're gonna see some technology coming out that's M-LOK compatible, that's camera mount compatible for rifle rails, or to attach to your swivel studs and things of that nature. And the technology is getting better and better. And you know, the hog saddles were a big thing the last couple years, and everybody's shooting all those hog saddles. Those are $400 bucks. Like if you're gonna get a good one, it's like $400 bucks. That's super expensive for what it is. You know, this is under $100 most of the time for most people now. $400 is a whole lot of money, and I can't justify that ever. But with these camera tripod mounts that are coming out, you're gonna see companies like Caldwell probably go away from this and then make something that is far superior and much more modular for any rifle system. The nice thing about those hog saddles is that you don't have to worry about all this extra gear. You just have the legs and you have the mount, and the mount is a very small piece. This has a huge portion which you have to be concerned with for mounting, and weight and balance, and you have to worry about all those things. I think this was a good idea at the time, and now we're past it. That's what I think. I'm gonna keep it, I'm gonna hold on to it because I don't like to spend a lot of money. But for you, I would say hold out a year if you can. Wait till SHOT Show and see the things that come out at SHOT Show. I think you're gonna have a lot better mounts for a better price even, coming up pretty shortly. Overall, I do like this. If you have one, you probably like it too. If you can get it for a really, really good deal, if you can get it for 20 or 30 bucks, I'd say still buy one of these. they're very worthwhile for that price. I just think if you need one and you want something special, wait a year, at least a year. Wait for SHOT Show to come around and see the new things that are going to come out. Save up your money and probably get something that works a little bit better. Other than that, this has been Edge Reviews and my baby. And she likes to throw in her commentary. This is the Caldwell Fieldshot Deadshot Fieldpod. It's the name thing. I never get it right. Edge Reviews. Subscribe. Watch this video. You don't know how many takes I did just to say that right. Deadshot Fieldpod. Fieldpod Deadshot. I never get it right. Oh my gosh.